The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
All right, so I got with Wayne Allen Root. Again, he's a guy who went to Columbia at the same time as President Obama went to Columbia. He's a guy who says he never saw this guy, never heard of him. He said he knew just about everybody who was in the graduating class of 1983. He says that he didn't know of anybody named Barry Soetoro, didn't know of anybody named Barack Hussein Obama II, and of 400 people who graduated that year, I guess they were all called, and nobody remembered seeing Barack Obama. And he makes some allegations, and he says Mitt Romney's got to step up to the plate, and he's got to say something, got to challenge Barack Obama right now. Don't sit back and just be the whipping boy for these allegations by Harry Reid and others. Just go right after Obama and say, all right, I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Well, they're desperate. First of all, hi, Joe. How are you? It's great to be on with you again.
Great to have you on, my friend.
And it's great to be at the center of an interesting controversy because what I wrote made the front page of Drudge Report. It's there now. It's, of course, started on Glenn's website, The Blaze, and I thank Glenn and all those people for giving it its start. And the fire is spreading. It's gone viral, and TV and radio stations all over the country are calling, like, how about 12 a minute?
Wow. And you know what? It well-deserved because it's very well written, and you are a guy that is above reproach. You can prove that you went to Columbia at the same time Barack Obama says he went, right?
Well, how about this one? I can prove that I'm a businessman and I built my business, and the private sector isn't doing just fine.
You didn't build that.
This is not a start in the right direction.
You didn't do that. So somebody did that for you, Wayne. Come on. Listen.
Go
ahead.
Have you ever heard my answer to that? I think my answer is the best one, which is not just to be angry and say I built it. My answer is you're right, Mr. Obama. The infrastructure was built, the airports, the hospitals, the bridges, the education system, public schools, police, fire, national defense. But you need to thank us. We don't need to thank you. We, the business people, paid for it already. It was our payroll taxes. It was our workers' comp. It was our business taxes. It was our income taxes. It was our employees who we created their jobs, and they paid taxes. That's how we paid for all your infrastructure. Therefore, you need to thank us. We've already done the work for you.
It's Wayne Allen Root. RootForAmerica.com is the website. Go to theblaze.com and read his excellent commentary today. All right, Wayne, you went to Columbia. You graduated in '83 when Barack Obama says he graduated. Did you know him? Do you remember him? Does anybody know him or remember him?
Well, I don't know if anybody ever met him. I know no one I know ever met him at Columbia. I never saw him, never heard of him, never met him. By the way, his name then was Barry Soetoro. Have you ever heard of electing a president of the United States who had a different name in college than he has today?
Never.
As president? How weird is that? But let's assume he went to Columbia. I've always assumed he went there because it's a billion-dollar institution. And look what happens. Look at Penn State, what happens when you make a mistake and ruin your billion-dollar reputation. I don't believe anyone at Columbia would go out of their way to defend someone who didn't go there knowing that their entire institution's credibility is on the line. So let's assume he went there and let's assume he graduated. The real issue is how did he get in, Joe? He was not a good student. He was a pot smoker, a slacker, and he got into Columbia after he had been a poor student at Occidental. Everyone who ever knew him at Occidental says bad students, pot smoker, attended Marxist meetings, never cared about school. How did he get in an Ivy League school? Then how did he get bad grades at Columbia, get into Harvard? Well, the answer is we don't know if he had bad grades at any of those places because he won't release his records. So I started thinking, and this is where this all came up. I said, first of all, Harry Reid has opened the door for me. If he's allowed to guess about Mitt Romney's tax returns, then a former classmate of Obama has the standing to guess about Barack Obama's scandal, and I believe it's at Columbia. I'm a Vegas odds maker. I'm like a police detective. I look at clues, and I use my gut instinct, and I have a hunch.
Well, hold on 1 second, because I want to ask you this. As a Vegas odds maker, what are the chances, what are the odds that a guy who's worth over $200 million can go 10 years without paying his taxes and the IRS doesn't do anything?
Well, that's why my article not only said I have a hunch that Obama has a giant scandal at Columbia that could take him down and end his reelection, but I also believe I have the answer for Mitt Romney. He's got to stand up in front of the nation, Joe, and he's got to show some cojones, by the way, and show people he wants this. Not like George H.W. Bush that looked at his watch during a debate and didn't really care and yawned. This guy has to show he wants to be president of the United States, and he could play the same hardball as Axelrod in Chicago.
Well, what specifically should Mitt Romney say to Barack Obama today?
He should say to Barack Barack Obama, I'm ready to show you everything. 10 years of tax returns, my marriage certificate, all of my business dealings. I'll show you everything I've ever done in my life if you show me yours, but I'm not releasing mine till you show me your college records, your Social Security number that is rumored to be from Connecticut, even though you've never been lived in Connecticut in your life, your birth certificate. Everything Obama's got should be now released and unsealed in return for everything Romney's got. That's the trade, and that shows America who's real. And I'll bet you $1 million, Joe, as the leading odds maker in Vegas, $1 million says Obama backs down, finds excuses, will never allow any of that to be combed through and see the light of day.
It's Wayne Allen Root. RootForAmerica.com is the website. Also go to theblaze.com. His column is the highlight there. A lot of comments on there. But one thing that jumps out at me, there is no requirement to show your college records, although he should. There is, however, a constitutional requirement to prove your citizenship. Let's assume for a second that Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, like he says. Let's make that assumption. You and I both know, and Barack Obama admits to this, that he went to school as a youngster in Indonesia. Indonesia was at war at the time. You cannot enroll a student unless that student is an Indonesian citizen at that point in his life when he was there. How did he come back to America? When did he go through customs? When did he go through immigration? And how did he get his citizenship back? Why can't we know those answers?
I got breaking news for you on that one. First of all, my guess in the article was never that he wasn't born in America. I've never said that, never thought that. I believe he was probably born in Honolulu just like he always said he was. It's a fact he went to Indonesia with his mom. It's a fact he went to public schools in Indonesia, which you cannot go to, as you said, without being an Indonesian citizen.
Right.
And so I always assumed, as I said in the article, he is basically abandoned by his mother, neglected, sent to Hawaii to live with his grandparents. Mom's abandoned him. Dad's not in his life. Nobody's paying any attention to a young Barack Obama. And do you really believe that in that situation they all thought about changing his citizenship back to American? And so he's an Indonesian citizen, and suddenly he realizes as he's getting ready to go to college and he's got lousy grades and he can't get into any decent school in America and he's got no money, he suddenly realizes I can get into the best colleges in America, and it's all paid for by the American taxpayer if I'm a foreign exchange student with a little bit of diversity to add to the university, and I'm a good talker. I'll talk my way in. I've got an exotic background. I'll tell him I'm Indonesian, and next thing you know, voila, he's a student at Occidental. Next thing you know, he's transferred to one of the best schools in America, my school, Columbia University. Next thing you know, he's at Harvard Law School. But the problem is you can't be president of the United States if you were a foreign exchange student in 1983. So now he realizes as things accelerate, he has got to cover his tracks. This is what I believe happened. Well, at 4 in the morning today, my phone rings, and unfortunately I put it next to my bed in case of emergency.
Yeah, right.
So I get woken up at 4 in the morning. It's a reporter, an investigative reporter from Breitbart who is in Jakarta, Indonesia, studying Obama's life as we speak, and says he has absolute proof Obama became an Indonesian citizen. It's a fact. It's not a question. He said, I'm looking at it right now. I've spoken to his teachers. I've spoken to his principals. You cannot go to public school in Indonesia as an American citizen. There is no such thing. And I have located the proof that he was adopted by his mother's new husband and became an Indonesian. So, Wayne, I think your story's right because that's how he got into Colombia. So there it is. I stumbled onto something, and I think what I stumbled onto with pure gut instinct, Joe, has the potential to take down the President of the United States.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.